This is the Segovia Show.
Steph Carse is an award-winning artist and a global music sensation. He has a decades-long career that spans the globe, journeying from early international pop success to faith-based music, film, and inspirational storytelling. He has sold 500,000 records worldwide and earned 6 Emmy Awards for his music and media work. His new album immediately jumped to number 2 in iTunes Canada, and the new single Amazing Grace, a duet with the Masked Singer judge Melissa Bedard, debuted at number 6 on iTunes Canada and number 1 on iTunes Canada and Apple Music Christian and Gospel charts. He recently published his autobiography, The Impossible Dream, a candid and heartfelt memoir that traces Steph's remarkable rise from early chart-topping success in Canada through periods of hardship to a spiritual and artistic rebirth. On November 2025, he was revealed as the winner of Quebec, Canada's version of The Masked Singer, and this win marks a defining moment in his decades-long career. I got to speak with Steph Carse about the electrifying finale, his multiple projects, which include a new studio album, a children's book, and of course his autobiography. But most importantly, I got to talk to him about him, because he has quite a story. Here is my conversation with award-winning artist Steph Carse. I want to welcome Steph Carse onto the program here today. Steph, this is a pleasure to talk to you. Welcome to the Segovia Show.
Well, thanks for having me, Andres.
Yeah, you have so many projects going on right now that I needed to okay, what do I approach first? And I'll just start from the beginning because it's you've actually had a lengthy career. It's just that you've been making the rounds because of this. What I guess the translation would be like the Masked Singer, because it's like a variation of it from Canada. How do you pronounce that show? Because I'm not French or Canadian.
Well, it's the French version of it, although all the songs are mainly in English. But the show is called Chanteur Masqué.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can't pronounce that.
Yeah.
But you did win, and I know that's one of the big highlights recently. Because for a lot of people, by the way, that cardinal outfit, I didn't know that's how they did it. Okay, you were this.
That was an amazing outfit. That was great.
How could you see through that?
I couldn't. Especially the first song, and then after I got used to it. Yeah, so it's you gotta look. I was looking through a certain area where I could see points of lights, and that's really how I guided myself. It was very difficult to see anything.
Yeah, because if it was just like you standing at a microphone, or maybe you're wearing like a microphone piece and just standing there would be something. But I thought I saw other people in like around you, and you had like these big old wings. I was concerned you're gonna whack some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, listen, it could have happened.
No, but I think the real highlight here is how people were impressed because once the big reveal, and some of the times I would think that a lot of this is scripted, but it really seems it was a genuine shock for some people that because for those from that are older that followed you would remember your name because you started like in the early 90s, I think.
Right. Now you're making me feel very old. Yes, I started in the 90s.
You've had a career.
But it was a shock for me too, though. It was a shock for me as well. For sure. Yes.
Yeah. But that's what I get to, because there's a new generation that's introduced to your music. I'm one of those.
Of course.
But then there are those that are like, oh wow, I saw some reaction online that he's still around, and I think you, from where you started from, I think this is key, because you wrote the book The Impossible Dream, an autobiography, which is available in Amazon. I'll be leaving links to that. It's available in print and an Audible. Thank you for the Audible, by the way, because it does highlight your career. So you started off, I guess it's like the Canadian version of country music.
I did. That's when I started in the '90s. We'd do songs and country songs, but not just country songs. I mean, one of our biggest hit was a French translation of a major country
Mm,
song from the '90s, and I started my career. So a lot of them knew me because of that. And but over the years, I remember coming back there in '99. We would do some pop opera, which was also different than country. Is a major shift. That's what brought me to Vegas, actually. And but over the years, I've done a lot of different style of music, because I grew up, uh, dad was a fan of Elvis, mom loved country and gospel, and my
mm,
grandma which was my official babysitter, she sang opera. So I had classical training for that, but sometimes, you go through a career and you have a major hit and people only remember that.
mm,
And so for those who came to see the shows, it was easy for them to recognize me. And you could see when the show streamed live on television that half of the people knew it was me, but
mm,
the judges, they didn't. One of them figured it out at the end, but they didn't. So it was fun for me. And I think it was fun for the audience to see that, because it was a nice comeback, as the showing where you started your journey. And I think it was God's timing also coming out with the book, because I was supposed to release that book 2 years prior to that, and I
mm,
just held it, and it was not the right moment. And now releasing it allowed me to enter new chapters in my life, but also talk about my walk with Christ, as a Christian artist. And so I think that the timing was certainly godly, especially that I wanted the song Amazing Grace. Think about
mm.
that.
Yes, yes, and I know that faith is a very big part of your persona. It's all over the book. I guess that's why there's a lot of things in your story that I resonated with, because I have some similar stories on myself that I'll probably share with you a little bit later here. But I did have this question though, because it's is it Montreal? Is that where you and your family grew up? The countryside
Yeah.
there?
Well, until the age of 6, and then we moved in the country,
Mm.
and
Okay.
that's where Dad, built I would say, a mini farm, and we had the pet store, and he knew nothing about farming. And that was my, the story. We always say that we were the Green Acres of Canada, right?
Yes, yes. And I had to ask you because I was saying it out loud as I listened to the audiobooks. Like, is he trying to build the Noah's Ark at some point? And then you had referenced it, and I was like, okay, so he's probably doing it on purpose. But was it two alligators? Is that what you guys had
Yeah,
on
we
the
did.
farm?
Actually, there were 2 crocodiles. They were
Crocodiles.
imported. Yes.
Yeah, those are more aggressive than
Yes,
alligators.
they're very more aggressive, and I killed both of them. What?
You turn them into handbags or shoes?
No, but not purposely. But I was cleaning their. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're talking about this. But I was cleaning their tank with bleach, and I guess they thought they didn't like their. That's funny. But yeah. But Dad had a lot of animals, and 2 of
Oh
each,
man.
all under the same fence, and we had a cow that would escape because he didn't know how to build a fence. And we had a golf course not too far from our place,
Oh boy.
and then we get a call from the police in the middle of the night, say, "Hey, your cow is on the green." Yeah, so and Mom would come, and, with Dad, and the full seas, it's just in this old station wagon. And some
Uh,
people hunking because obviously she was in the middle of the night in her negligee. It's with her rollers and everything. It was a funny. And I wanted to talk about that in the book, because I wanted to talk about the things the way they were. It's
mhm.
not, the book is not colored. It's
No,
it's it's raw. Yeah.
it is. That was my
Yeah.
first takeaway. You were very open in the book, which I think people that pick it
Yes.
up would appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I really did appreciate your candor, because oftentimes when we look at people that have been successful in their career, uh, we don't see the struggle that goes on behind it. But then there's these biopic films that come out, and then we're like, oh, I didn't know it was like that. Like the I Can Only Imagine films that came out recently, just telling a story of the
Right.
struggle just to write a song.
Yes.
And
Right.
sometimes that
Right.
leads to inspiration. But you had quite
Right.
quite a story, especially because you dedicate the book to your mother, and there were a few moments there, and I need you because I can't do it. I cannot do it any justice. Can you please tell the story of the time trying to make the payments, and it's dinner time, it's closed, and their prayer of faith worked, because I believe that was the moment your mom had prayed not just for funds to cover the expenses, but the specific amount. I think you know what I'm talking about. Can you share that story?
Of course, and that's what shaped my faith actually, because you can't ignore. There's so many stories, and mom was a strong uh, prayer warrior, and she had a strong faith in her. My grandma as well. And, so, well, like I said, we dad built this mini farm, and he also built a pet store that was attached to the house.
Mm,
And, in the days that we were struggling financially, just to, uh, and you had checks that you need to cover it for the next day at the time. So mom would always, pray at the dinner table, whatever amount we needed, and she would pray for that specific. Mom was always specific, and
mm,
she'd pray for that amount, and then dad would go after dinner to the store and would make the sale, you know, and he would sell for that amount. And I don't know if he was testing my mom's faith all the time, but one night I remember that it didn't work. I don't remember the amount. I think it was $600 or $800 that we needed back then
mm.
to cover some. I forgot what it was. I was very young.
Yeah, back then it's
And
a lot of
then
money.
so the store was closed. It was 9 o'clock, and then so dad would come to my mom and say, "Well, I guess your prayer didn't work tonight." And so mom would say, "Well, tomorrow is not here yet." Right? So she had that kind of faith, and it was unwavering. And then I promise you, the moment she said that, somebody knocked at the front door, because if you have a store attached to your house, really, it's never closed, right? Because if
Yeah,
it's closed,
exactly.
then the customer will come to your front door and say, "Could you please open it?" And so this guy came and he knocked. He says, "I know your store is closed, but I did some overtime so I could buy this dog and surprise my mom and my son with this dog, and it would do me a huge favor. I'd come out as a hero." And so dad would open the store, and of course, dad was a good salesman, so he would sell him the dog, a cage, everything goes along with it. And so it would arrive exactly at the amount of money that we needed. And
Wow.
and mom never defended it, because when there's something about when you
Mhm.
don't have to justify. Sister Len saying, tomorrow's not here yet, was very instrumental. And through my career, I had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and that's the faith that was shared with me as a child that pulled me through the tough seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, that moved me. And in the book, you share other powerful moments of faith, including the prayer when your father, I believe, had a heart attack. It's just it's I can see in seeing I believe I saw your other entries before I read your book, and just hearing you boldly speak of faith. So then when I picked up your book, I'm like, you know what? Forget the interviews. I want to read the book. And just listening, I can see
And
where the
thank you for doing
inspiration
that,
was.
by the way. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and I could see the inspiration, that the amount of influence that your mom uh, paved the way as an example for you, and in your life, which has led to your boldness, which has led to your career changes, your trajectories. Because yeah, the 90s, you were known mostly for your country style music, but then you
Yeah, right.
did do a shift towards the very end there, because you could sing opera, you could sing pop versions of, like, well, just pop, all these different genres. You had a range that you could tap into, but getting there wasn't entirely easy. Was it in the late 90s that you were in Memphis?
Yeah, I was in Memphis, and that's also the fact that I was doing all these different music styles that allowed me to confuse the judges on the Masked Singer, because I could come from one sound to another, and they hadn't heard that before. But this kind of of experience that we talked about with mom seeing these things, you can't fake that, and you can't ignore that. When you see this, you see it. It's there. It's as tangible as our conversation. And that shapes who you become, The role of the parent is so instrumental to the outcome of a child. And mom was certainly a perfect mom.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, for us, she was.
yeah, is she still around?
Yeah, she's still around.
Yeah,
And
because
that was one of the joy that I had to when I went on the Masked Singer. It's one of her favorite shows. The way she loves that, because it's a clean show and it's entertaining, and she loves music, and so I didn't tell her. We couldn't say anything about it, and then it was very interesting because on the premiere, which was in last September, I went back home. I knew it. They were going to air the premiere of my performance, and that same day, before the show aired, way before the show aired, during the commercial, there's a commercial on television that was showing what's coming up tonight. And I see, and they show the Cardinals singing this song from Celine Dion, "All by Myself." By the way, we start in Spanish, and then it goes to opera, and then it goes to pop. And then so she hears this, and she comes out of her room because it's playing in the living room. She says, "That's your voice." She was like,
A mother
"Mom,
knows.
what can I say? What can I say, Mom?" So I couldn't say anything. She says, "I know you can't talk." And so she would go. And then she boldly declared something after the second show. She says, "You're going to win."
Wow.
And not only that, I'll tell you, you're going to win with Amazing Grace.
Wow.
And that's amazing when you think about it, because the shows were recorded prior to that. I knew I was going to win because it was recorded a few months prior to that. And then so it's just funny, and she's just filled with the Spirit. It's just a special mother.
Yeah. No, man, that's awesome, and that's really hard too. Like you want to share so much, but you can't. Like, "Oh, I can't tell them this," because then okay, now I can celebrate, but it's like how much time later? But at least you get to relive that moment, like to share the joy with
And you
everybody.
get to see her at her age. She was 80. She's 82, and
Wow.
so to see her witness that, I don't have to tell you that she became like the star of the residence where she lives right now, right? Because everybody watches that show. And you know what she said to me? She says, "Because of you being on that show and winning, it's allowing me to share the word of Jesus with people."
Wow.
So,
That's
so
awesome.
she's faithful to the end. So yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
She would call
And
me though every week. She tried to find out, to ask me more questions about, "Hey, what are you going to sing next time?" I said, "Well," she was worse. She was being Columbo, right? So that's her era. So that's
Yeah,
right.
and I guess because we're along that subject, and I did want to highlight some things of that in the lead up to your career, like late '90s, early 2000s. But because you won with Amazing Grace, there's a story behind making that music video that I would love for you to share. Because there's a testimony to that of someone that was unrelated to the production that was kind of interrupting you, and to talk about that. I believe you know what I'm referring to, but
Yes,
can you share that,
yes.
please?
Yeah, you know, I this song has always been my favorite song,
Mhm.
favorite hymn, Amazing Grace, and I must have recorded it 4, maybe 5 times actually in my lifetime. And I recorded it in '93, and then I recorded it again in 2014 or 15. And that's the version you're referring to, where we go from different style, from African music, and to Gaelic, to a cappella, and then make it more stream, pop at the end. And I wanted to include different style of the song this time because it had never been done like that. And I wanted to show that everyone's invited to this amazing grace. Everybody's invited to this big banquet that God is giving us.
Yeah.
And so we brought a lot of different colors throughout the song. And one of the scenes, we actually started with that scene, which was going to be the ending of the video. And the vision was to have people, about 100 people on the beach, dressed with a robe, like a choir robe, right? And they would be at the beach at sunrise, and we'd shape them like a cross at sunrise. So if you can imagine, like the sun, so it's just a beautiful vision. And then so I'm here praying. I said, God, it's going to cost a lot of money for this production because we had 3-day shoots. And I said, why am I doing this? Is that me again that heard that it was what you wanted me to do, or just me doing it because I want to do it? And so that's always a question for me to try to get myself out of the way here. And I said, give me a sign, please, that I'm here. I'm supposed to be there. And then a few minutes later, this woman walks by, and she sees that I'm directing this, and so she tries to grab my attention. And I said, hey, I really don't have the physical time to talk to you right now, because if you're opening a scene at sunrise, the window is very short. You don't want to miss it, right? And so, but something, as she's really insisting, and something is pulling me to say, okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. That's all I can give you. And then she shares her story. She said, I have to tell you this. Last night would have been the 30th anniversary to what would have been my daughter. But I committed, she had an abortion 30 years ago. And she was praying, remembering that date and praying that God has forgiven her. Yeah. I think we know that God forgives. And I think the problem is that she hadn't forgive herself. Yeah. For whatever reason. I don't have an opinion on what happened for her. But my point is, she asked for a sign that God had forgiven her. Now, mind that it's about 4:30, close to 5 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black. She's walking on the beach, right? And then we had huge speakers playing the playback of the song Amazing Grace on the beach. So she's hearing out of nowhere, because it's pitch black, this huge, sound of the song Amazing Grace. And that's as she approaches to the location where the sound is coming from, she sees about 100 people dressed in robe that look like angels and shaping a cross. Right? So she got her answer, and then I got mine, and it was so moving. I said, okay, we got to move on, but I want you to be part of that cross. So if you see the video, it's that lady with a black shirt. So she was part of the final edit. Part of the TV special as well, because her story was so amazing. And so God shows up when we ask, with genuine intentions.
Yes, because you've had quite a career with a lot of challenges. Living out of your car for a while, even though you were having some hits, but you were still living in a car. And I don't think people around you knew that you were living in a car.
No, they didn't. It was coming out from the late 90s. The management team, from just the CD sales, and I guess the concerts, generated $3.2 million. And so I was very green when I started, so I wasn't really making that much money. I was just singing almost every day. It was either a radio show, it was a TV show, a magazine, or on a concert. And so I didn't really know what was happening. But in 97, I had it, it was like, okay, I have to get out of here. And so what happened is, we're going, I don't want to reveal my whole book, then nobody will.
Oh, no. But this is definitely an abstract of the book.
So I decided to leave for whatever reason you can find out in the book. But I decided to leave for Nashville. And so I had really little money in my pocket. Then the money I had, it was to keep for studio time and record new songs.
Mhm.
And I got to meet a guy that's very special to my heart, and he's still one of my dearest friend. His name was Gilles Godard, or Gillis Godard. And this is a Canadian man who had moved to Nashville with his family. His daughters were born there.
Mm.
And he was a music publisher and editor at the time, also a songwriter and a producer. So he had many titles. And so he knew who I was coming from Canada. And I don't know, God placed in his heart that he would try to introduce me to people to, so I worked with the same manager that he introduced me to in
Mm.
'98. So can you imagine? So he's just been an angel in disguise in a way. So he helped me dramatically and introduced me to a lot of people. He was working at the time on an album for the Special Olympics, and which involved a song with Donna Summer. And you remember Donna Summer? Yeah, and then Donna Summer was the first record I bought when I was a kid. So right. And then we had different artists, a lot of very famous names, as I was certainly not the most famous there,
Mm.
especially in the United States at the time. And so, but it was interesting because then I got to work with Donna Summer's husband, Bruce Sodano. He was producing tracks for me, and I was in their house, and then she would come in the studio. We'd go to church together, and we'd go to have dinner. So I was working with these people, and then going back in my car, at night, not telling anybody, I was feeding myself the dollar menu at Wendy's and going to shower at the YMCA. So, but those were hungry years, but at the same time, they were forming and certainly increasing my faith, because you see what happened to me then is I understood the difference between a religion and a relationship.
Yes.
Because I don't believe Christ gave us, I stand by that for sure, that Christ came to give us a religion. He came down to give us salvation, but to give us a relationship so we can communicate with the Father and with Him. And so, when you've lost everything, you're in a place where you ask yourself the right questions. And asking, first of all, the question for me was, hey, why all this? Why am I going through this? I mean, I've done good things in my life. I've helped. I've done good songs. I try to have a relationship with God. So why am I going through this? I didn't understand it,
Mm.
and until I realized that a lot of things it was a misconception, of who we are in Christ and what we are here for. And that's why I talk boldly about it today. Today I want to use whatever He's given me to glorify Him, because it's just grace, right? That's why I love that song, Amazing Grace. I've done it in so many different styles because I want people to know, and it's such a well-recognized hymn, and it's accepted worldwide as as a hymn. And so I just want to sing His grace, because I understood at the time that my role is just basically get myself out of the way here and figure out, why am I here for? Is this for getting more accolades or getting more awards, more gold records, or to glorify God with what has been given to me? And so it was a transition that, it didn't happen overnight, though. I can tell you,
No.
it's still a work in progress.
Yes.
Because getting yourself, it's what I think about Christianity. People think Christians are weak or for the weak. This is such a lie, because it's for the strongest, because it's so much harder to say no than to say yes to things.
Mhm.
And so we train ourselves to be disciplined and, and to please in any way we can, to be conformed to the image of our Lord. But these were important years, and for me and my growth also. And it's a decision that I still have to make from minute to minute to get myself out of the way. I just have to, to say, why am I doing this? Is it because I'm going to gain something out of it? Or what's the real motives of the heart?
Yeah.
And that's a question that I love to ask myself and be brutally honest with myself on that.
Yeah, and that self-reflection is important because of if we thought that we were all good, that if we thought that we got it made, then what's the point of Christ in our lives then? Because we're supposed to be broken, humble, and realizing that hey, I can't do it without you. I need you in my
Right,
life.
right.
That's the reminder every single day for me.
Yeah, and I think people, some people are just rejecting the idea because they are still under the illusion and they don't want to give up their own godship, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's why I say it's a discipline.
Yeah, discipline for sure. And
Yeah.
we started off talking about the recent celebrations and accolades that you've gotten, and the reflection on early on how you got started, and the humility in which you had to live to just get to get somewhere. Uh, but what year did you lose your voice? Was it when you were in Vegas?
Yep. 2013. Yeah,
And
I
that's
did because Vegas is hard for a singer. I mean, you've heard of the Vegas throat, right? Because a lot of singers, it's so dry, and
yeah.
no matter how much water you drink, the nasal area is dry. So I would spend my night in the steam room, and go to the green room between songs and just. But it was very difficult for me coming from the East Coast where it's very humid,
Hmm.
and so it was difficult. And they always wanted me to do the big songs, the Andrea Bocelli songs, and I would do Nessun Dorma and those
Hmm.
big opera songs, and they're very demanding vocally, and you have to be on a strict discipline, and I wasn't talking during the day, just keeping my voice at the shows.
Wow.
So, and then eventually I would open and nothing would come out. So it just got, yeah. And I could deal with a bunch of stuff that happens. You have bad sound, you have bad musicians, bad lighting. But if your voice is not there, I felt very lost.
Yeah.
And my lesson for this was to also realize that my voice was becoming my identity.
Mm.
And as you progress in your faith, you don't want to have any other idol. I mean, to me, it was becoming that. And then so um, I remember going to a church in Vegas called The Crossing. At the
Mm.
time in 2013, the church was expanding, so it was a growing church in Vegas. And so the pastor was asking the congregation to write our prayers, our sound prayers, on the pillars of the new foundation,
Mm.
which I usually would not do that because I always keep it private. But this time I said I'm just going to do it, and it's still my screensaver on my phone. Actually, that prayer from 2013. Uh, and I asked God. I said, if you restore my voice, I will record a bold CD and TV special that will declare my faith. And which, it was restored. And not only restored, you know, at my age, usually you lose, right? And actually I gained an extra octave. I always had
Yes.
4 octaves. Now I can do 5 octaves. Those whistle tones that Mariah Carey, I didn't have them until the age of 50. So they were,
Yeah.
it was a gift, as if God wanted to say, hey, you know what? It's not just you
Mm.
resting your voice. I showed up, and then now it's time for you to fulfill your promise. And so I did the TV special, which was the beginning of the recording of Amazing Grace, and
Mm.
part of the TV special called My Shining Hour Story.
Mm.
Took me to Israel, got baptized in Israel, and
Oh wow.
uh, yeah, and so it was yeah, and funny enough, it took me 3.5 years to produce a show, and when it was produced, no one wanted it. So so no one wanted it, and I just couldn't sell it.
Mm.
And so I said to God, I said, "Well, I did my part, and I guess for me to wait, I'm just going to wait and focus
Mm.
on something else right now." And so what happened is that maybe a month and a half, I got a call from Baystar Network. They were interested in airing the show in Canada,
Mm.
and it did really well. And then they called me. They wanted to air it worldwide. And
Oh.
so the major story for me was in my writing. I said, back then in my prayers, I said I would do a show recording that will be seen worldwide.
Wow.
And then so they were at the time in 2.2 billion homes. And so there was an answered prayer. It's one of those moments that I will always remember. And the arrangement of Amazing Grace led me to win my first Emmy for the arrangement. So it was it was a long process. I thought it would take me 3 to 6 months to produce, but 3.5 years, and
3.5 years.
when it was done, no one wanted it. So, yeah, you could say I've lived a roller coaster
Yes,
ups
yes,
and downs.
and this is just scratching the surface, folks. That's why it's called The Impossible Dream. The autobiography. We'll definitely pick it up. For those of you watching, listening, the links are in the description down below. The show notes at theandresegovia.com. I'm glad you brought up the Emmy part, because that's the other part I wanted to spend a little bit of time on, because you won. Is it 6 Emmys?
Yep, a total
You
of
won
6.
6 Emmys. So,
Well,
for those that are
since 2019, right? Yeah.
so for those that are listening and hearing about you being in the music industry, they would associate that with Grammys, but with Emmys is filming. So that's why
Yeah.
you're a multi-talented individual, because you won Emmys for some of the in this case arrangement that you said for Amazing Grace, but these other Emmys, and I did see a clip of you winning for is it like a docu-series that was made for middle schoolers?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Okay.
do, because my wife and I, we have a nonprofit organization called Why I Count, with a letter Y, and it's an organization that fights bullying, and so we go into schools and we share, the message of the danger. We really focus rather not on bullying, but rather on building self-worth,
Building
and
software.
so it's a different approach. And out of this was born a song called "Awesome, I'm Awesomely Made," which in a way is scriptural, and wonderfully and fearfully made. And so we talked about what's residing in us, as children or any adults. Think about your eyes; they're able to record, to pick a million bit of information per second, sending it to your brain at 300 miles per hour. Now, there's no camera to give you an instant focus like your eyes. And your lens in your eyes can move. I just found that out today, 100,000 times a day, and your blood pushes, your heart pushes blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels every day. So 60,000 miles is like going around the earth 2.5 times every day. So the complexity of the body is so amazing, and we know we have an approach that's very scientific, so that way no one can debate it. It's proven, and we're showing the kids, that what resides in us is so incredible that no matter what's happening outside of you, it has no power to affect the inside unless you allow it. Because through the program, we talk about the power of words, and because words, we know it has the power to destroy or to build. And so, but not only what you say to somebody else, what you keep saying to yourself, because we have that internal chatter that's going on all the time, right?
Yeah.
So what you say will have a ripple effect in your body, because we know that we often become what we believe. But what's interesting is that we end up believing what we are told repeatedly and accept this truth. So it's important to visualize that. So I've done a lot of TV shows. There's a series called A Secret Hero. It's a series of 8 episodes, and that one as a series. And it's available. It's free. Actually, it's on our website, whyiCount.org. Spells with a Y. And then we did also a show for younger girls, that teenage girls that suffer from body dysmorphia and self-harm. So just to spread, kindness, and to show the power of kindness, and how empathy, basically how to walk in somebody else's shoes. And so different shows, and Awesome is also about young kids being bullied, and to show the power of words. And so there's a lot of twist in our story that actually make it fun for the audience, and for the kids to relate to. So this is what, and then My Shining Hour Story, the TV special, ended up winning as well. So these are the big wins so far.
Yeah.
So God has been gracious to us, for sure.
What was the inspiration, though, to not just to address the subject, but you also created a foundation to address the subject? What was the inspiration behind that?
Well, a friend of mine sent me by email a letter. I think it was in 2015 of a young boy that committed suicide at the age of 14. And he left this letter behind, hoping that this letter would, change things. And so, and it brought me back to my childhood because I was bullied as a kid because as an artist, very introverted. And also, the one thing I didn't mention is our home was a foster home also for mentally challenged kids. Mom was taking care of those kids. So you can imagine the name calling in school.
Yeah.
And so I could relate to the bullying, but what I didn't understand is that in my days, we'd never hear of suicide due to bullying. At least I don't recall that. So what drives them to, because now it's the leading cause of death among young children.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Under 14, can you imagine that? Bullying is the leading cause of death. And so, and then the more I digged into it and understood a few different things, that first of all, when I was a kid, home was generally a safe place for you, because your parents were there and, you felt protected. And today, well, parents are busier than they've ever been. And some parents are, with single parents as well. So there's more freedom to the kids in general, and they're more left on their own compared to when I was a kid. And to make matters worse, because the real enemy here is really cyberbullying, because you come home with your device, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a phone. So the bully follows you home. Because when I was a kid, if I get involved in a fight due to bullying, 2 to 3 boys, boys would know about it. You get in a fight with 2 or 3 boys, and so that was the end of it. But today, it's the whole school that knows about it. So the peer pressure for kids is tremendous because they don't know who saw what's been posted. It could be the whole school. It could be the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the peer pressure is tremendous, and the understanding that the frontal part of the brain of a young child or teenager is not fully formed. The part that's able to reason is not there. Yeah. It's formed only by the age of 22, 23, 24. And so everything they feel is emotion. And so they can't reason yet because it's not formed yet. So they are fueled by emotions. And so they're unable to see that it'll get better, right? They're not able to see it. And so if they don't have the parent, to support that and understand that, and it's hard for a kid to tell your parent that he's bullied. So parents have to look for signs.
Yeah.
And so, when you go to your kid, say, what were you thinking? The chances are he was not thinking, he was just feeling, because that part is not there. And so the series, The Secret Hero, is really designed for parents to give them signs. It's designed for kids as well, but it's also helping the parents to read the signs and to ask the proper questions.
Yeah, definitely. And because I'm looking at the clock here, how you doing on time? We still good?
I'm enjoying our time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm. It's a fire hose of information from my end, but I'm enjoying talking about this because I love that you read the book. It really touches me that you took the time to do this, and I hope I'm not talking too much. Just stop me if I.
No, this is great. So if you're okay with going a little bit over, I'm okay with it too.
I'm okay.
All right, excellent. Because I told you before we started recording that there were some things that resonated with me with your story and ultimately your foundation. And that's because, I was bullied in high school too. So that's the disassociation though is here where it's a little awkward. Where I was bullied. I don't know how much that contributed to me being an angry person later on, because I became known as the Incredible Hulk to my social circles. So I don't know if that was my defense mechanism to all that. I never even bothered looking at it. I just accepted it. That was a part of my life and things to work on. I still have some anger things that I gotta settle with. But I grew up in a loving household. I was born and raised in the church. That didn't make me Christian, though. I eventually had to come to Christ, and because you shared so much and you were very open about your story here, over my right shoulder is a romantic comedy series in which that I wrote as an inspiration on how I met my wife. But as I was trying to develop that, I realized I got to go further back to tell that journey to make myself emotionally, spiritually ready for the woman that God had chosen for me. And in it, I open up about my suicide attempts. So for a lot of people that picked up the book, even though it's told to third-party characters, uh, they reach this point in knowing that, oh, this is a book that's inspired by his life, and they're like, what's this? Because now they're finding this out way later. They never saw signs of this. Like, what's this doing in the story? It's like, oh, that happened. I wrote it exactly as it occurred, and I attempted 5 times. I'm still here, and I was in my late teens, and this is after I had accepted Christ. This is after apparently I had near death experiences. My parents told me about that God saved me from multiple things I shouldn't be around, and the next thing I know, when I'm supposedly trying to live for Christ, here I am trying to take my life. And it was through his authority. He told me to uh, put the knife down. I heard him clear as I'm hearing you. And without giving too much more detail about it, the point is that
Well,
he had expressed to me in that same moment, it's like, if I did not have a purpose for you, I would have left you in that pool. And that reference was to an event that happened in my life 5 years before, where I was drowning in a pool, surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones, but they all thought I was faking. And I'm the only one that saw this apparition that pulled me out of the pool. So I call it, that's my angel. An angel pulled me out of a pool. No one else saw this. So to me, I was left confused. I was 12 years old. Like, what does this even mean? So later, I accept Christ as my personal savior. I get baptized at the age of 16. At the age of 17 and a half is where I'm trying to take my life. Yeah, I was bullied in high school, but I didn't make that association with it. I didn't believe the bullying led to that, because I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I just became angry over it. My upset was, I guess, in a way with God, because I'm like, I never asked to be alive. So that was like, to me, it's like, why am I given a life I didn't ask for? I didn't consent to this. That was my mindset. And then being told I have to live by a set of rules to live this life and supposedly enjoy it. It's like, you kidding me? I can't even have a say in my supposed own life. So it did take a lot for me to grow out of that. And it was the book by Lee Strobel that someone gave me at,
um,
at a campus. It was called The Case for Faith, that was given to me, and then I looked. I read into that, and I ended up reading the case for Christ too. But to me, there was no doubt about Christ. But the case for faith, that was like, huh. But it wasn't until um, uh, what is it, Philippians 1:29, because you're like, why is all this stuff happening to me? And then Philippians 1:29, and I guess I better pull this out correctly, because I don't want to misquote the word. So Philippians, not Philippines, Philippians.
but just
Philippians.
like you also, I met God outside the church. It's
Mm.
interesting. Yeah. I grew up in the church, but I met God outside the church. It's interesting.
And well, this is the verse that brought it all home for me, and this is the English Standard Version. Even though I read it in the King James, for it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ, that you should not only believe in Him, but also suffer for His sake. So I'm like, oh, so a lot of the things that are happening in my life, they're part of the journey, because I was told that, oh yeah, everything's gonna be great here on out. And there's this very hilarious Christian meme which says God's gonna grant you peace, prosperity, and whatever, and it's like it's the picture of a knight with his armor on, and then the next slide is an arrow that goes right through the slit, and it says the Book of Job. It's a reminder. It's like, hey, there's some people in the faith that do go through
Yeah.
a lot,
We go through,
and
yeah.
and
It's not a cakewalk. It's not a
no,
cakewalk for sure.
no, it isn't. Your story is an
But
example of
it's,
it. I freely share of this because I try to tell people that, hey, it's not meant to be an easy walk. And some of the most inspirational things that I've seen come out in recent years, I'm like, Lord, I want a faith like that. Our Nigerian brethren that are being persecuted in Africa, and this powerful picture after these Islamic extremists moved through this village and burned this church down, and then the pastor just brings his parish into the burned out church, and they still have service. And that's the picture that's shared. They're still having their Bible service, even though the roofs are gone just down to the foundations. And I'm like, Lord, I want that kind of faith, that even in the stand of those trials, that you can still do that. And that's why like this stuff resonates with me. The way you've been open about your story, your book is raw, uh, but then this whole like, wait, he has a foundation that addresses bullying. And when my family found out, my friends found out, it's like, how come you struggle with this? We never noticed this. Like, that's the point, that you it's hard to find the signs. This is a battle that you feel you're battling alone, that no one will ever grasp or understand. And those that have been through it are more akin to the signs. And I'm it's I'll just ask this, but it's okay if the answer is no. Have you seen anime films? Because since you've been to film, have you seen any anime films that are on the subject?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a link to a film that I would love your opinion on. It's called A Silent Voice, and it does touch on the subject that's very near and dear to your heart. It's both about bullying. It's also about those with disabilities being bullied, and also redemption. And it's a powerful, powerful film, that some people attribute to saving their lives too. I'll send you that, and I won't say any more because unless there's some behind the scenes stuff. But it, this is the kid's book that you wrote. I Am Awesomely Made. That's available on Amazon as well. And that's you with your wife down here. Is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And
And
then our dearest friends also, Cyrus and Natasha, he has the same name as my wife.
oh, okay.
So they helped us put this together, and we're actually working on animating this book now.
Oh
Uh,
wow, yeah, that'd
yeah,
be something.
yeah, but to go back to a little bit of our conversation, uh, sometimes we get freed from certain things, but there's part that we have to do that God will not do for us, which is the renewal of our mind. And that's
Mm,
something that we have to do and rechange, and rewire the way we associate. That's why I said earlier, what I understood is that we become what we believe, but we end up believing what we are told repeatedly and accept as truth. But the renewal of the mind through Christ, it can change that. And it's a long process. You could be freed from something, from a spiritual warfare about suicide, let's say. You could be free, but you still have to the the renewal of your mind is something that God will not do for you,
mm.
and it's something that you have to pray for, to be assisted by the Holy Spirit. But it's a long process. Sometimes it could take a year, 2 years, 3 years, and so we need to switch whatever we think. Then we go with the opposite,
Yeah,
and until your brain is trained to do that, because the enemy doesn't have to work that hard on us anymore. He just has to remind us of certain story or certain events or situations. So we got to fight back with what the word says about us, and we got to change that mental chattering pattern, internal pattern that has been developed over the years. And it takes time, because it's over the years, right? It takes time to develop a pattern.
yeah, it definitely does. And you highlight some of that stuff that even you were dealing with, and I think at the early 2010s and such, that you open up about in your book. Without having to spoil any more of the book, pick up his book, people. The Impossible Dream. This is not the audio book of the audiobook. The audiobook exists already. So, and it's very well read. The narrator that reads the book, very well done. I've heard other audiobooks. I'm like, it doesn't sound like the voice of the book, but this one I felt does it justice. So I'm really glad whoever it is that was picked up to read the book did a really good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that too. So it was interesting, because I'm working on a project right now. It's a film. I've been working on it for about a year and a half. It's called A New Beginning.
Mm,
And we are taking uh, the book of Genesis all the way to book of Revelation. And it's never been done, because now with the help of AI, we're able to really recreate these stories,
mm,
uh, and to show, because the majority of the young people in the latest study believe that the world is doomed. A lot of people, they're with all the events around the world, they have very little hope. And so once we understand our story, because God gave us the end of the story,
yeah.
and so that the ending is better than the beginning.
Yes.
So it's a series of 4 episodes that we're finishing this month, actually, with the grace of
Oh
God.
wow. Mhm.
And I'll send you the trailer for it.
Oh, you got the trailer now. Oh, okay,
Yeah, I'll send
cool.
you a trailer for it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes too if that's okay with you.
All right, sounds great. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, man, we covered so much ground here, and
Uh,
uh,
I want to talk about one more thing.
Please, by all means.
The latest Amazing Grace. It seems like it's the only one song, the one song I've always sang. But after winning the Masked Singer, one of the judges is a famous Canadian singer, and she's kind of the Canadian CC Wyman. And so she was there, and at the end when that was revealed, I said, "Why don't you come down and sing Amazing Grace with me?" And she did.
Oh, that's cool.
And then so what we did together, so if you come to my home in Florida, I'd love to do a professional recording of it in a music video. And she accepted. And then we re-released that song in December. Amazing Grace as a duet, as a duet.
Mhm.
And then the song took off. It reached #1 across Canada on iTunes and #5 on the pop chart.
Wow.
#1 in the Christian chart and #5 on the pop. And the video on Facebook is 1.7 million without even promotion.
Wow.
So it
Awesome.
was I'll send you that video as well because she's a
Yes.
phenomenal singer. She's just and she did a great job on it. And so I wanted to tell you about it because it's going to be fun to watch.
Well, first off, congratulations to all that, and it's been amazing to see not just your career, but you holding on to your faith in God and Him guiding you through. And I really, folks, I don't think I mentioned in the recording. I went through his book twice on Audible because I'm like, I gotta hear that again. And it wasn't just because I was gonna have you on the show. I I listened to it full on through in the first sitting because I couldn't stop it. I'm like, I need to finish this, even if I'm gonna go to sleep late. I need to hear the rest of this. It was hard to stop. So it's like equivalent if I had it in print, it would be hard to put down. And I'm so glad that I gave it its attention. Like I gotta hear it again, and I did. So I recommend people get it. I'll be leaving links to that, including the kids book I Am Awesomely Made. You also have a new studio album, which is a praise and worship that I believe is only available on Amazon Music at the moment, right?
No, on all digital platforms.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right.
All of them.
Then
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
okay,
The book is
cool.
only available on Amazon, but
The
the
books,
music
the
is
books are
yeah.
Amazon exclusive.
Both books
The
are only
album,
on Amazon. Yeah, but the album is
gotcha.
everywhere.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. So there is one last question I have for you because
Okay,
it was not
go for it.
answered anywhere.
Okay.
Did you ever get to meet Olivia Newton-John?
No, I
Oh,
almost did. I
you
almost
almost.
did. Because in '98 when I was working with Donna Summer, and I told her my story anyway. So and I said I'd love to meet her. She tried to arrange something, and the weekend she was in Nashville, I wasn't there, so
Oh.
I couldn't get there in time. But she tried, and she tried. So
Oh
no,
man.
I was so in love with her when I was a kid.
Oh man, that story is in the book. I won't spoil it. You guys can read it. It's hilarious. But how unfortunate. But still, that's quite something. But I'm like, he didn't address it. Like, there's nothing there at the end. Like, did he or did he not? Don't leave us hanging. That's why I needed to make sure I had an end cap to that for your book.
Yeah, right. No,
Well,
almost, but almost doesn't count, right?
almost doesn't count. Well, we're gonna wrap up here for the audience, so don't hang up. But Steph, this has been an absolute pleasure. By all means, let everybody know where they can follow and keep up with everything that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, obviously, the social media. It's I think Facebook is called Music by Steph,
Mm.
and all the others is basically Steph Carse. And YouTube, I give everything away on YouTube, so you can watch it. If you go to YouTube channel, that series available there as well for free. Um,
Oh, okay.
and it's Steph Carse Up TV,
Steph
so
Carse
easy
Up
to
TV.
find.
And
Absolutely.
for those watching, listening, you guys know the drill. All the references will be links available in the show notes accompany this episode at theandresegovia.com. Did you mention the Instagram? You're on Instagram too.
Instagram, yeah, it's also Steph Carse. But if you go to my website, which is stephcarse.com, you'll find everything there.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's the mother hub. Yeah.
Good. A great place to have it. Absolutely a pleasure talking with you. Again, don't hang up yet, but we're signing off for the audience. Any last words for the audience? I'll leave it to you.
No, just don't give up. Just don't give up because because I do believe that God has planned for each of us. I mean, the scripture says this, and I know that God's word is not going to return void.
Mm.
And so, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. And so the moment that it's interesting because as a kid, I thought I wanted to be a singer, and growing in a church, and I wanted to do films and stuff like growing in a church, it was perceived as something not good, and I didn't understand that, and I was fighting it constantly. And then that's why I said I met God outside the church, because I understood that through my relationship with you, He doesn't make you hungry for bread to feed you with a stone. So if you have a desire, there's a purpose behind it. And I think the journey is to find what it is. So you align your will with His will, and then things happen.
Yes. And that's a great way to leave it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, man, for your time. I really, really enjoyed our time together, man. I appreciate that.